Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I'm showing you a deck profile for what I've been playing on Master Duel pretty much since its conception. This was a pretty easy selection for me as far as being like my first main that I take into the game, and honestly it's been really good. It's consistent, it has incredible powerful plays that work against the meta specifically, and what more can I say? Pendulum best deck. But I feel like this deck is underrated. Most of the time when people look at Pendulum, you're looking at the crazy wombo combo Triff variants of Pendulum, not always looking at something like a pure Zephyr list, which we have today. So showing you a quick little deck profile. I think it's going to be a good time. I think it's just like an overall just phenomenal deck, honestly. You take it in, even if you're going into ranked, and when you're in low ranked, this just deck will fly you through low ranked. Then when you get to the top, it's like one of those rogue decks people are not equipped for, and there's only a few side deck cards that even hurt this deck, which side decking doesn't exist in Master Duel. So people just don't have main decks equipped to handle you. We don't really care about Max C. Ash only hurts us if we have like a really bad hand, or at least like mediocre to bad hand, and everything else like we just handle. We have utility for pretty much everything. So let's jump into it. So starting off with our deck list here, we're going to start by looking at our monster lineup. Of course, you have the driver paired with our double Gamma. I wish Gamma was at 3 in this format. In the TCG, I play Gamma at 3 because it's so good. You do so many, you activate like almost 5 card effects sometimes without even putting a monster on the field. So Gamma is like very live early on, and if you Gamma on your turn, it's almost always, especially if it's turn 1, it's always game like immediately, because then they lose a hand trap. Then you get to then you get to make Omega and rip another card out of the hand. So they're 2 cards out of the hand, and you're probably going to set up 2 to 3 interruptions or floodgates combination, some combination of stuff like that. So really crazy. The other hand traps we're playing are triple Max C and of course 1 Ash Blossom. The Ash is kind of awkward, but to be honest, I kind of missed that 6th hand trap from my TCG version of Zefra, so I wanted to play one more. And if you're ever going to do the Crocodragon play, I felt like in this list specifically, I didn't have a specific card where I was like, ooh, Vanity's Fiend, or you know, or whatever it is, Gizmek Kaku, or you know what I mean? There's a bunch of, because technically the deck can search any monster in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So I just felt Ash being a generic card in the grind game, searching something like this, it's just like, we'll just kill your opponent. I mean, it just means whatever their follow play is, you have a stop to it. So it's just nice, it's generic, it's come up, yeah. And then you get to the actual lineup. You start off with our, well, they're kind of in a weird order, but we'll start from the main card. So we're going to skip down here to Zephyr. He is the most important Zephyr monster. He's your best starter. In scale, he sends any Zephyr monster from deck to extra deck to copy its scale. That's so good because it's essentially a +1, giving you a free monster to pendulum summon out once you assemble your scales, and being flexible to be a high or low scale is really huge. But mainly, you want to be sending your Zephyr New, and so you want to pair this with a low scale because Zephyr New is a high scale, so you want to be able to make this a high scale, pair it with a low. So for those low scales, we have triple Zefraxy. This guy's really good. He can make another Zephyr a tuner when he's summoned. That comes up with certain plays, but not all the time. Then you have double Thuban. I was playing 3 before, but I believe I took it out because I put in the Musket engine, which we'll get to in a sec. And also when he's normal or pen summoned, he can like pop another Zephyr monster you control to then pop a face-up card your opponent controls. That comes up all the time. And then the last one is Zephyr and Pilika. She almost never comes up for me. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I wish she did more. She actually can reborn a Zephyr or a Ritual Beast from grave, but because our deck's all pendulum monsters, they usually go all to extra. So if you ever do get like, I don't know, solemned, right, when you try to pen summon, and so you end up having guys go to grave or hand ripped or something, she can be a nice +1, but usually it's just another low scale, so not too bad. Then you get to the high scales, which are Zephyr New. This card is amazing. You play 3 of this guy. If he's ever pen summoned or destroyed by battle or card effect, he will search you any Zephyr spell or trap, or Yang Zing spell or trap. So good. This is what you do. You pen summon him on your turn, search a card, leave him on the field, use a disruption that actually destroys him in the process, and search another follow-up and or disruption still on your opponent's turn. This card is amazing. You go like +7 sometimes off of Zephyr New over the course of a duel. It's so crazy. And then the last high scales are one Zefraxiton. This guy gets you pop face down cards, but it also matters that he's just a 1900 beater. That comes up so many times I can't even explain to people. Some people are like, oh, okay, back removal, kind of specific. Like you could probably just side him like in the TCG. And I'm like, no, don't side him. As far as your main deck goes, your highest attack stat aside from him is 1500. You need him. He helps so much with pushing for game. Even in like slow like game states. And then you get to Zephyr Wendy. When she's normal or pen summon, she can add a pendulum, a Zefra from extra deck back to hand. That's really good. It allows you to get bigger pendulum summons, recur for follow-up. It's really good once you get in rotation to just get a free add back from extra deck every turn. But yeah, that's it for the Zephyr monsters. For our next package, you have the Magical Musketeer package. We play 3 Starfire and 1 Calamity. I mean, it's really, it's cool. I don't know, like, so the idea is because we're a pendulum deck, we go like normal Starfire is the main starter you want here. Activate a scale under Starfire in one of the far zones. That'll trigger Starfire to summon Calamity into the other far zone, the other pendulum column. Then you activate your second pendulum scale in that column, and that will, if you had linked off your Starfire for max, you would have been able to reborn the Starfire. So you got either 3 link materials to use, or a link 1 plus the materials for a rank 4. We'll get to those a little bit later on as well, but really good. It also baits hand traps so well. People just see this and like the first thing they think is Starfire is like, oh gosh, like that's scary. Like Starfire is like how they get to Caspar, and once they get to Caspar, they're gonna have like 2 or 3 disruptions. So I really like this card. It's been really good. Even Calamity. There are duels where you go second, you just go normal summon Calamity, make max, and that already baits a hand trap. You keep the body on field, or a hand trap, or like an interruption, and then you, even if they let you keep the body on field, you just go scale, or search to get some scales, pen summon, and like actually play into the board pretty well. But I think that's it for the monsters. Yeah, looks like everything for the monsters. Moving on to the spells, we got a bunch of consistency stuff here. Triple Oracle Zefra, not including the Terraforming, so technically 4 copies of Oracle. Really good, just gets you any monster, or any Zephyr monster. Usually you're getting Zefrath if it's not in your hand. But if you do, you then use just whatever else you think helps the hand the most. Triple Providence. This card's crazy. It's literally just a Rhoda for the archetype, searches any Zephyr card, not even monster. Oracle only searches monsters. But this searches any card, which is just insane. And it's Balinx Engrave. Oh my god. So crazy. And the last Zephyr card we have is Zephyr Path. Really good card, really insane floodgate that just says your opponent can, actually both players can only special summon from hand or extra deck. So no grave, no deck, no tokens, no trap monsters. Eldritch, I'm looking at you. That's why this deck is insane versus Eldritch. Eldritch is like the buy as long as you just like don't extremely mess up. Yeah, this card's insane. This is the biggest reason why this deck is like so anti-meta. It's like half the time you set this up and like it literally turns off like half of your opponent's plays. So all you need is like a counter trap or maybe like 2 interruptions at most, and like the duel is over. It's really crazy. And then Triple Prosp, we use the extra deck, but like very specific things, not usually that often. Most of the time we use the extra deck just to amount lethal. Like, honestly, like that's, you know, a bunch of utility stuff as well, but mainly it's just lethal. But yeah, that's it for the spells, I think. One more thing to mention about Oracle, if I didn't mention it before, it has this other second effect that's really crazy, where if a Zephyr monster you control is used as material for a synchro monster, you can pick any monster in your deck and put it on top of your deck. That's insane because you'll see when we get a little bit lower. It pretty much sets us up to be able to search any monster in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Should we be playing it in our main deck, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, then for the traps, very standard lineup here. Double War. This card's like just a Dryden, quick effect, target one Zephyr card you control and 1 card your opponent controls, destroy them. But if you have 2 Zephyr cards in your pendulum scales, it can actually activate from hand. That comes up all the time, especially when you hard draw it. Your opponent doesn't know you have it. They're never expecting a crazy interruption like this to come from like something you didn't search, and it's just sitting in the hand. So this card can be so clutch. I've literally had people go like access code thinking like, okay, he's had this in his hand all like for a turn or 2. If he's not firing it now, it's probably like a hand trap or something like an ash or something that's not even that useful. But then it's just this, and he makes access code on resolution of the effect to gain attack. You just pop it, and then he just like scoops. Like, it's crazy. Like that's legitimately happened to me before. Then we get to the counter traps. Divine Strike. This card negates any card by banishing a Zephyr card from your extra deck. Very easy to set up. And then Pillars. Pillars is insane. So what Pillars does is it negates any activated card, spell, trap, or monster, shuffles that card into the deck, busted, and then destroys a Yang Zing card you control. You may say like, oh, you had to pay 2 cards to negate 1. Well, when you're popping your own Zephyr that you have on the field that you use to search it, and then that triggers Zephyr to search another follow-up, and you still have Pendulum Scale, so you're just going to pen summon him out anyway, so you're not really losing him. It's just like insane value. This card is a must play. I think this is the perfect ratio. I've seen people play 2 Divine Strike, triple Zephyr War at certain times, but I think that's too much. You don't want to draw too many of these. If you draw 1 of them, it's okay if like the rest of your hand is like enough Zephyr cards, but that's really the only thing that you have to worry about. It's just like drawing too many non-Zephyr cards, but usually that's not a problem. The deck is actually very consistent. But yeah, that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra down here. Start off with Metaphys Horus. This card's crazy. It pretty much says if you make it using a pendulum monster, your opponent has to give 1 monster they control to you. So the way you set this up, because you may be looking like, John, you don't have tuners for this, like the right tuners. You can use Zefraxy. When it's summoned, pendulum summoned, it can make another Zephyr monster a tuner, so you target one of the other level 3s, whether it's Pilica or Wendy, and then you take those 2 into this. Your opponent has to give you a monster, and then you can make Dampier, which we'll get to a little bit later as well. You also have Wind Pegasus. You can do the same thing as far as synchroing goes, except with Zefraxy plus one of the level 4s, one of these boys. Omega, this is how you just like auto win the duel if your opponent tries to like Ash or Max CU your turn going first, because you just like, they lose that card and then they lose another card from their hand. Crazy. And then Crocodragon. So this is the weird combo with Oracle, where what you would normally do is you synchro into Crocodragon while Oracle's on the field using Zephyr monsters. That will then, you will make Crocodragon Chainlink 1, Oracle Chainlink 2. Oracle will resolve first to put any monster on top of the deck, and then Crocodragon will draw it. It's really cool, really fun way to search Ash, Maxi, Gamma, whatever you want, like literally anything in the deck. You search follow-up, it doesn't matter. I don't have any like super high impact cards for it, but that play can come up. So it doesn't come up as often in this build, but like it definitely does. Then we get to the rank 4s we're talking about for the Magical Musket engine. We've got the Baguska here. That's just the defensive option. If we don't need the other guy, that's what I go for. And then Gallant Granite. So what's really funny is that Zephyr is actually a rock monster. So you can actually just start your play with the Musketeer player cards, which then can go into Granite. Granite search Zephyr, and then you get Zephyr online and start playing the game. It's a really, really cool way to do it. It's the only reason why, like if this card didn't exist, I wouldn't be playing the Musket stuff, because there'd be like nothing to really connect it to the Zephyr engine. But this is a pretty nice way to do it. And then the Dampier. So Dampier says like if you use an opponent's monster that like belongs to your opponent but you currently control it, it counts as a level 6. So you can steal something with Horus and then immediately overlay them for him. He removes a card, potentially reborns a monster to your field, and it's pretty insane value. You're gonna like remove a bunch of cards from your opponent and put a lot of damage on board at the same time. It's really cool. Then we get to Max. You just play him because he's an extra body. He's a way to just get another free body on the field using the musket stuff and baiting hand traps, especially if they don't know what you're playing yet. You just go start your play by either normaling Starfire or Calamity and just going like Link, try to summon a bunch of monsters from deck. Your opponent's going to be scared. They're going to negate it, and then you play the rest of your hand for free. Gravity Controller in almost any Pendulum deck should be playing this, but specifically more control-based ones, just because it allows you to out certain things in the extra deck and clear stuff from your extra monster zones that you can pen summon them again in the same turn. Really good. Cyphering or Lambda, this is just in specific situations where we have Gamma, but it hasn't been live yet. Your opponent hasn't tried to hand trap you or anything. We can make this in a mid-range board state just to make the Gamma live. It definitely comes up, and it has good arrows. It's a beater. It's good. IP, this also generic card. I like to make access code with this. It allows us to play around certain things, such as, you know, Torrential Tribute, any disruption that would be like trying to destroy the guy you're making off of this. Really nice. And also you can try to unicorn your opponent on their turn in very specific situations. That don't happen all the time, but it can. For Charmers, I do play Asa and Win. They're both really good. They're both very easy to make because all three of these dudes are light, as well as the Musketeers, and Zefraxi and Zephyr are both Earth. So you have like 6 Earths and 7 lights that are like that you pretty consistently go into. So really good there. And then we get to Unicorn. Of course, you play Unicorn. It's just generically great. And then Access Code. You win a lot of games with Access Code. Not that he like wins the game, but it just means like you pretty much about resource your opponent. You've simplified the board state. Now you just got to do is just put enough damage to like end the game. So usually you just use Access Code to do that. But yeah, really, really good. I think the one thing I would say about the extra deck is I really would love to make room for Appaloosa. I know I have Baguska here, but whenever you do those turn 1 plays with the Musketeers and you go Starfire, Summon Calamity, Link off Starfire for Max, Calamity Reborn Max when you're activating your scales, you've already got 3 bodies on field before you've Pendulum summoned. And if you, a lot of times, if you're even if you're not just doing a standard play where you're just pen summoning Zephyr and you have any other monster to Pendulum summon with it, then you can make like a 4-mat Appaloosa with the Zephyr search, which is so strong. So many decks have trouble beating Appaloosa, especially a 4 material one. Like that's crazy. So I kind of like the idea of having Appaloosa in the deck. I don't think Wind Pegasus is that important. It was much more important when I was playing the Paladin, the Nirvana High Paladin, which I'm not currently playing, but I would if I wasn't playing the Musket stuff probably. So that's probably an instant drop, but it's also an ultra rare that I don't have at the moment. So, you know, I'll pick that up at some point. Obviously, it's Appaloosa. You got to have it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I really like the deck. Hopefully this helps anybody who's maybe getting into the game or maybe like wants to find something that isn't quite top tier meta, but a really good rogue deck option. It's rogue, it's control based. I think it takes a lot of like a skill in the sense that you got to be currently aware of like everything going on, whether it's your scales, whether it's what you've already sent from deck with Zefrath, whether it's like whether or not you have a Providence or not to like protect your board and all this stuff. There's a lot of factors that go into this deck, and I think it's pretty intricate to play. So I think it's a really cool deck. If you were looking for something like this, hopefully this helps some people out. But yeah, that's gonna do it for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know in the comment section down below. I wasn't playing the Musket stuff at first. If you think there's like something else you would try out right now in Master Duel as far as being something different from this package, definitely let me know down below. I've been trying to find something. This has been good, but I'm still kind of curious if we can find something else to kind of sub into that slot. But whatever, for now it's still doing pretty well, so I can't complain. But I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't yet and you want to see more stuff from me down the line, and peace. Peace.